Welcome along to the latest episode of The Bottom Line here on the Blood Red channel. I'm Guy Clarke. Welcome along as we look at Liverpool from a different angle, as well as what's going on the pitch. We aim to keep you in the know with what's happening off the pitch too, particularly on the financial side. With Redbird Capital looking to swoop and make a move to buy Italian giants AC Milan, I'm here with our business of football writer, Dave Powell, to explore how, why, and what impact it could have for FSG and the Reds. Dave, it's been a while since we've been on one of these pods together. I hope you're keeping well. And as I say, we've got a pretty meaty story to get our teeth into today.
Yeah, it's been rumbling on for a couple of weeks now. It's the Redbird have made no secret in the past about the fact they wanted to add to their own portfolio. This is an aside from their investment into FSG. This is their own vehicle, which is being used to push this ahead. But I think the AC Milan one came out a bit out of left field, really. They'd looked at beforehand. They looked at before they took over Toulouse in 2020 in the summer. They looked at over 80 clubs, a lot of those in Italy, and that meant that they built up kind of a dossier of clubs, and they knew their finances, the potential, the media rights, etc. So they'd done a lot of due diligence prior to this. But this came out of left field a bit because of the fact of the exclusivity talks between Investcorp, who had been looking to acquire AC Milan for the last couple of months, and Elliott Management, who were the current owners of the club. Those exclusivity talks had ended, the period had ended, which meant it was kicked open back to the table for us to come to it. So Redbird have sensed the opportunity and they've come in with an offer. So it's potentially a huge acquisition. They are one of the European football's most storied football clubs, and I think to have them within their portfolio would be a real coup for Redbird.
Yeah, for those listening who may be kind of not on top of it all the time in terms of exactly who Redbird are, they're the group obviously led kind of by Jerry Cardinale, who invested into FSG, isn't it? They have an interesting stake in FSG, and as you say, been looking to acquire a club. I think I'm right in saying Malaga was maybe one of those they were looking at once upon a time. But AC Milan, to me, as you said, they're one of European football's most storied clubs, along with Liverpool. Seems to be very much a difference, kind of maybe in caliber to certainly what I was kind of expecting to see them make a move for.
Yeah, the investment into FSG was concluded in March of last year, and that was $750 million for 11% stake of the company. And what that did was allow FSG some capital into the business to push ahead with some acquisition. They did so with the Pittsburgh Penguins. So if you were to look at the investment into FSG, I believe was made on a valuation of the whole empire of being around $7.5 to $8 billion. The value of FSG as an empire now was expected to, it's been reported in various sources, the likes of Forbes, etc., to be pushing the 10 billion mark, which seems about right given the increased value of their own sports properties, such as Liverpool, and then also you add in the Pittsburgh Penguins into the mix as well now. So they've already, that 750 million pound investment has already increased in size considerably. But yeah, they'd been in the market. The Toulouse situation was they bought a club which had been relegated from Ligue 1, and then they picked it up at a low ebb. Came close to getting promotion last year. This year they've won the title. They'll be going back to the top tier of French football next season. They've done it very much in a similar makeup to what Liverpool did. They focus on seeking value where others don't. They're trying to put in that kind of strategy, and it's been led by Damien Comolli, who's the president there at Toulouse. He's obviously well known to Liverpool and FSG from his time at the Reds. But they've been looking elsewhere. So the Malaga story was last year. They bought a small shareholding in Malaga, who are now a second-tier side in Spain. They were a Champions League quarter-finalist not too long ago, probably 8-9 years ago. But that was done, that small stake was done so that they could have a seat at the table should the club kind of look towards a full takeover. Because at the moment, it's a club mired in its future is mired in the courts, really, because there's an argument over the Alfanis and Blue Bay Hotel Group who part own the football club. So Malaga's been run by a court appointed administrator for the past 2 years. So I think Redbird have parked their interest in that for the time being. They still have the shareholding, but I don't think they're actively pursuing that aggressively at the moment. The AC Milan one came up because the valuation that the club, when you compare it to, you look around the Premier League, Chelsea's just been sold for £2.5 billion. To acquire AC Milan for what is believed to be just over £1 billion is the asking price. Seems, especially when you've got Champions League football. I mean, they're going to win Serie A. It looks like.
2 points ahead of Inter, aren't they? With
and thinks that the final round of games is this weekend potentially, I think. But Champions League football's assured. There's a fairly healthy TV deal there, but obviously it's a brand as well. So it's very, it's such a marketable place, Milan. It's like if you look at what Paris Saint-Germain have done, they've turned that whole thing into a brand, because it's, fashion capital of the world, but Milan's very much similar to that. So there's a real brand to sell there, and I think they feel that there is the potential to grow that further than what it is at the moment. So they are. The way it stands at the moment is that Redbird are engaged in dialogue with Elliott Management, but I still think that Investcorp feel that they are the front runners in this. They're already quite far down the road in terms of the process, but I believe that the ownership group hasn't been too impressed with the fact that Investcorp have been quite vocal in the media about things in recent weeks, and also Elliott Management aren't. There is no requirement for them to sell. It was an opportunity that was presented to them, and one that they followed. So it could still be that the ownership of AC Milan remains in the hands of Elliott Management, which is run by Paul Singer, who's kind of an investment veteran based in New York. I mean, his fund is only a few blocks from Redbird, so it's I'm sure their paths have crossed previously, Jerry Cardinale and Paul Singer. But there is a lot. There's a lot of potential within AC Milan. I think that is, and the opportunity to present itself. And like anything with in investment, you invest at the right time or when an opportunity comes available, and that's what happened with AC Milan. So I'm not too sure whether it was on the. If you would have asked me this 6 months ago, whether it was on the agenda, but certainly once the club became open for dialogue around the sale, I think it's been a bit of a no-brainer.
So how would it impact Liverpool? What kind of effect would Redbird Capital taking over AC Milan have? I mean, would it create? I know we've kind of spoken a number of times about kind of, you see the City Football Group, you see Red Bull, you see kind of how these unions are created. But going back to the point of Liverpool and AC Milan, would both want to be the elite club within any kind of type arrangement. Would this create a union between the two clubs? I mean, you mentioned Toulouse. We've not really seen any, for example, transfer dealings from Liverpool to Toulouse. Maybe once they're in the top flight, might be maybe an avenue for loan players to go on. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But AC Milan, as I say, with them being so big and everything, would this impact Redbird Capital's interests in FSG wider, in Liverpool, in maybe ultimately taking more of a stake in FSG, or would this more be a case of, as I say, creating a union there that actually having a foot in both camps is beneficial to them?
I don't think there'll be a union created, because I think there'll always be clear separation between what Redbird do with their own investment vehicle and what they do with FSG. I don't see those two things crossing over, but I do think that Redbird eventually. I mean, Jerry Cardinale said this in an interview with the Boston Globe, that he would be, they would be looking in the future to increase the amount of capital that they've invested in FSG, which in turn would then be used to potentially acquire more clubs. I think any union that comes for Liverpool happens from within, but obviously that could arise from extra capital that comes into the business through the help of Redbird, which allows them to purchase more clubs. But in the case of Redbird, it won't. They don't have any individuals that sit on any management committees within the football club. They have no direct influence over the football club. They are at the moment, they're the third biggest investor into FSG at 11%. So there is no, with Red Bull. There was an issue some years ago when RB Leipzig and Red Bull Salzburg both Salzburg almost were lifted up to a similar level of Leipzig.
Almost got too big for what they expected.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, because there was a quite clear kind of chain of command. What existed, it was kind of FC Liefering and then you had Salzburg and then Leipzig, and a lot of these players moved through that system. I mean, a lot of players that we know, the likes of Hina Konate and Sadio Mane was at Salzburg as well, Naby Keita. So, but I think this won't impact. I mean, there is no conflict of interest in terms of an ownership stake here for Redbird. If they do acquire AC Milan, it wouldn't affect their commitment to FSG. And from what I'm told from people close to the deal from the Redbird side, it's their intentions remain the same for FSG to continue to play an active role in growing the business and invest in more capital. And that may be through, they may look to invest more capital to potentially acquire an NBA team, which I believe will probably be in Las Vegas in the next couple of years, which LeBron James will likely front when he finishes his playing career. But they're being quite kind of smart in terms of separating their interests between what they do with Redbird and what they do with FSG, to avoid any, because the idea for Redbird, they would love to lose to be in the Champions League, because that's where the money in is, and the lucrative nature of French football, because the media deal in France at the moment isn't great because of the Media Pro TV deal that collapsed early on in its contract about 18 months or so ago just after the onset of the pandemic. So that's kind of not recovered to the kind of levels, and it's still way behind the Premier League, as is the La Liga and Serie A. They all trail, but there is if you can get into European football, Champions League football, that's where the money is.
I was going to say La Liga and Serie A, though, have kind of in recent times, haven't they, tried to kind of sell more international rights, which has been one of the great successes of the Premier League. And I remember reading some stuff around Serie A in terms of how they were kind of planning to really break into certain markets and see if they could expand kind of their portfolio of broadcast rights, I suppose. But kind of when you were talking there, I mean, the French game, whilst maybe not the most lucrative in a business sense, the division, the league, has shown itself to be very competitive in terms of training on players and developing them. And I'm just wondering kind of, and it is pure speculation, playing devil's advocate really here, Dave, in terms of the bigger, I suppose, Redbird get and the more investment, the more clubs they have, with whether it's the formal relationship or whether it's just the contacts that FSG have, shared contacts with Redbird. You mentioned there kind of the deals that Liverpool have done down the years with the Red Bull Group, and obviously have built very strong links there. I suppose if there's almost an in-house version that's created this empire that Redbird have, that they have Toulouse, they have AC Milan, potentially Malaga, the situation resolves itself there and they do become active again. And there's kind of that chain there and the flow through of players. For those that maybe AC Milan don't take or reach a value actually where Redbird go, on the open market, we could get more than what actually selling to AC Milan would be worth. Hey, Liverpool, are you interested? You can kind of see there how it kind of marries together if you see my train of thought.
Yeah, and they will, they will have access, I'm sure, to insights that that other clubs don't. I mean, there's been no official partnership or anything formalised. But recently, Liverpool have been looking at trying to find some kind of simpatico relationship with Spanish team Elche. Kind of, even if it's just nothing around a takeover, this is FFP. Now, this is just purely around things like data sharing, potentially developing players through loans. The thing is for Liverpool, if they're very keen for their players to get not just experiences out on loan and game time, they have to be appropriate experiences with clubs that will enable them to flourish and realise their potential. And I think, maybe further on down the line, Toulouse presents that. But I think at the moment, this is it's been a really kind of prolific period for Redbird in terms of their investments and how they've spent. You look at the last 2 years, what they've done. They've been at the vanguard of sports investment. They've put their money in into not just football but cricket in the IPL with the Rajasthan Royals. They've the XFL, which is the kind of the spring football league. It's kind of the razzmatazz version of the NFL. It's not designed to compete with the NFL, but it's designed to fill that void when the NFL season finishes. That has been given a huge boost by the fact they've managed to secure a multi-year streaming deal with Disney. So all these things, they're smart cookies and they know what they're doing. So they don't do anything off the cuff, I don't think. I think there would be a plan in place to have, kind of a multitude of clubs. How it all fits into Liverpool in the future remains to be seen, because at present they've been quite explicit to say that we are just investors into FSG. But I think it's a partnership which is likely to grow only stronger as you move through the years, especially when you consider John Henry and Tom Werner are in their 70s now, and how long do they want to continue to be the kind of the leaders of the group? I mean, businessmen like making money, and it's very rare that you see them retire early. I mean, you only have to look at the richest list. I suppose if you look at the top 10 richest list in Forbes, I imagine a lot of them are in their 70s, etc. But I just wonder, maybe it's part of succession planning. I don't know, but I know that I do know that they want to continue to build their relationship with FSG, and this, any potential acquisition of AC Milan won't affect that in the short term. It just might mean that they maintain that separation for a little longer.
I'm just seeing this rosy time where Divock Origi, of course, has been heavily linked with AC Milan. He's off there. You mentioned Kamoli, of course, at Toulouse. There's all these Liverpool links within. They're all kind of one big happy family, and everything shares around Europe in a fantastic way. But we'll have to.
I do imagine that things like that data sharing, etc. I'd imagine if Redbird did acquire AC Milan, I'd expect them to follow a very similar route as to what FSG have at Liverpool, because it's ultimately, I know from speaking to sources at both, it's they are drawn to each other by their kind of love of analytics and Moneyball, I suppose. And you only have to see that through the fact that Jerry Cardinale and Billy Bean have a special purpose acquisition company together, Red Bull. So all these things tie in together. So it's like a Venn diagram, but where it ends up it is unclear yet. But at the moment, they are pushing hard for this takeover. Although, as I say, Investcorp probably still just about in the driving seat.
Yeah, no, I suppose we'll leave speculation at this point, I'm going to say, but I don't think it's been confirmed where Michael Edwards' next club perhaps is. So let's leave that one up in the air and move on. But final point I want to mention, Dave, is just kind of obviously the season is drawing to a close. Liverpool in yet another Champions League final. The summer transfer window is coming around. Tchouaméni, Jude Bellingham, two guys who've heavily been linked with Liverpool, and kind of the types of deals maybe that a couple of years back you wouldn't really be thinking Liverpool would make so often, these big name transfers. Obviously Diaz was summer business brought forward, but I suppose really with you mentioning there kind of the how much the empire is now worth to FSG, we really are seeing the long-term seeds that were planted even back to before the last Champions League win that really now bearing fruit with Liverpool. All these commercial types they are securing, as well as I suppose the impact of the Nike deal kicking in, that really Liverpool now have put themselves with the model they've operated into a very, very strong financial position, and won't be long before really year in, year out in the transfer market, they really can compete fully.
Well, the idea that FSU always had with Liverpool is it's supposed to wash its own face, and pumping in cash into the business, which will just be used in the transfer market, which would just be shown as heavy losses into the accounts. That hasn't really ever been their way. But what I can see already is the success that has been brought over the past 2 or 3 years by Jurgen Klopp is now being able to be leveraged. So they've got a couple of key deals coming up. I mean, if they do manage to win the Premier League on Sunday, it would be be something of a miracle. You're expecting City to drop points again, but then if they win the Champions League, it's so much leverage to be had in success globally. They're already, they've accelerated past the likes of United, etc. in that respect, and they have a huge shirt deal to renegotiate next year, whether it's with Standard Chartered remaining. But my hunch is that it would be up there on a par at least with the biggest in world football. And then they have another one to negotiate with Expedia, which was worth £10 million a year for the shirt sleeves. Chelsea managed to negotiate a £20 million deal with Whalefin, a crypto firm, for theirs moving forward. So Liverpool have all this leverage. They are the most, they are at the pinnacle of the European game. They are a global brand which surpasses Manchester City in terms of its reach, and they have all these things. So you've got the Nike deal, the way that's structured, and also all these sponsorship deals which are coming up, which they will be able to get a huge lift on from what was seen previously. So all that is what will help fund kind of more action in the transfer market. So whether it's a big one this summer, I'm not convinced. It will be. I know it's probably Liverpool fans get sick of hearing, next summer. It's always next summer. But Diaz would have been a summer acquisition. I wonder. It all depends what the market does. I mean, the money will be there to bring someone in. But obviously, watching the bottom line and ensuring a profitable business is also a key consideration of Liverpool. And it's something which they've managed to do while achieving success. And obviously, they've got Klopp tied down now for the longer term. So fingers crossed that will continue to be.
Yeah, nice mention and plug there for the Bottom Line. Indeed, here, Dave, on the Bottom Line podcast. Great to chat with you as ever, and get the lowdown on Redbird Capital's movements and perhaps that buyout for AC Milan. We'll have to keep an eye on how that does play out and the rest of the commercial deals that Liverpool are looking to tie up. Head across to the Liverpool Echo website to keep an eye on all of Dave's writings that are coming up on the website. Until next time, though, from myself, Guy Clarke and Dave Powell, thanks for your time and your company. Bye for now.